All right, everyone. This is Ricky Venters, and I'm here with Success Journey Sports, Success Journey Show, and all the above. Success Journey Society. We're excited today because today we have a special treat, a workshop for everyone. I've gone through the experience with a couple of my boys of transitioning from middle school to high school. And let me tell you something in New York, where I'm from, is not like this. Okay. I never knew anything about this process. I never knew it was so big where you went to high school. And you will know this if you're in this Maryland area and someone says, "Hey, what school did you go to?" They're referring to a high school and not a college. Right. So that just blew my mind. But I didn't understand exactly how crazy this process is until I had to do it a few years ago with my oldest son. And as the other sons have gone, starting to go through the process, gone through the process, it's just we said, man, it'll be so valuable for people to understand what it takes to really, be able to get into the schools they want to go to, start early instead of late, and just all the little nuances that people will need to know so that they're not caught off guard in the process. So I'm not the best person to talk about this process, but I have two great individuals here that live and breathe this and have breathed it for many years, and educate and teach people about this process. So I have Carrie Simpson. Carrie is a career in college. Help me with the title: career in college readiness
College and career
counselor,
counselor.
college and career counselor. There we go, at Joppatown High School. And so grateful to have you here with us today. And I also have Nicole Venters, and notice the last name Venters there. This is the first time we're on screen together with Success Journey Anything.
Yes.
Welcome,
First time.
Nicole. This is my wife. She is a guidance counselor, and works with a lot of high school students. Works with high school students, not a lot. Work with high school students. Two very knowledgeable people. Carrie is going to take us on this journey today of that transition. So I'm going to turn it over to her. But I hope everyone get out your notepad, pen, because it's this is a process, right? And we want to make sure you have all the information. So Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ricky. So again, my name is Carrie Simpson, and I had two kids go through the private high school process as well. They both attended John Carroll. Um, and I was a college counselor at John Carroll for about 16 years. So I was in the thick of it for 16 years, and I understand the admissions process pretty well. So I'm going to share, hopefully, a lot of good information for all of you. So I'm going to share my screen here so you can see the presentation that I have. So hopefully I'm going to share everything you'd want to know about private high school options in and around Baltimore. We will look at a few schools. We'll go over how to be admitted, the admissions process, because again, it is quite a process. So why would you consider a private high school as opposed to a public high school? Everybody has a preference, and a lot of people look for certain things. Private house schools do offer smaller class sizes, that is for sure. I have noticed the difference just working in a private high school and then a public high school. There is a big difference in the class sizes. Private high schools do have strong academic programs. They do not have to follow any state testing or national testing like a lot of the public schools do. So they have a lot more freedom to choose what they'd like to teach, which can be a very good thing for academics. They are college prep. Private high schools are certainly all college prep high schools. So if you are hoping that your students end up at the college level, a private high school will absolutely prepare them for that. They have competitive athletics, including basketball, which I believe a lot of your students are interested in. And of course, there's a tuition that goes along with private high school, and each high school does have scholarship opportunities. So they have financial aid that you can apply for, and then they also have scholarships your students can apply for, because there is a cost that's associated with going to private high school. So, what is the admissions process like? How does this work? If I am interested, what do I do? I'm going to get into how to find the right kind of private high school in a minute. But once you do find that right fit, or a few fits that you think if you want to apply to more than one, you certainly can. Most kids do. There will be an online application on that high school's website. There will be an admissions page, and you'll find an online application there. And within that application, it will instruct you to submit middle school transcripts. It will ask you to submit possibly teacher recommendations. There will be an entrance exam component to the application. So you will have to take an entrance exam. We're going to go into that a bit more in just a second. You will probably have an interview portion of the application with the admissions team at that particular high school. That interview could happen on a specific interview day that you're invited to, or it could happen when you go and shadow a student at that school. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit as well. And then there are application deadlines. So you get all of this completed by a deadline, usually in late fall, early winter of each school year. So if you have an 8th grader right now and you're interested in the process, now is the time to get started. And the first step I would take is going on the website and reading about the application process. And we're going to go into that a little bit more in detail. As far as the high school placement test, this is something that's required if you're interested in private school. And it's HSPT, stands for exactly that, high school placement test. And this is a list of some schools and when they are offering their high school placement tests. So as you can see on the left-hand side, on November 15th, which is in a little over a month, the following schools below that date will offer the high school placement test. And then on November 22nd, the very next Saturday, those schools on that list will offer the test. You can prepare for this test as a student. If you simply Google HSPT test prep questions or test prep, you will find a lot out there to help you get ready for this test. It's a lot of what you've learned in middle school, but it is absolutely worth studying for because it will determine, and a lot of times it will determine what classes you are placed in, whether you're placed in standard classes or honors classes at that particular high school. So obviously you want to do the best that you can on this, and preparation is always good. As far as tuition and financial aid, these high schools will range anywhere from about $15,000 to $30,000 a year, give or take. There are scholarships, like I mentioned, for certain specialties, like if a student is really strong in school, in their academics, they can get a scholarship. If they're really strong in the arts or athletics, they can get particular scholarships. And then there's also financial aid that you can apply for. There's a specific financial aid application that you go to just for private high school in Maryland, and you fill that out. And if you are in need of aid, you will receive help to go to that particular school. So that's something that will also be listed on these websites at these different schools. And then you pay, tuition payments can happen monthly, they can happen quarterly, semester, yearly. Most schools offer just about any kind of payment plan you need or that you are comfortable with. So now we're just going to go over some of the schools in this area that you have the option to look at. We're going to start with a few co-ed schools, and then we'll go into some all-girl schools and then some all-boy schools. So to start with, the closest to many of us, if we live in, the Aberdeen, Harford County area, is probably John Carroll School. It is a co-ed school. And I've just listed for each school we're going to go over, I've listed the benefits, the tuition, the possible scholarships, and the type of basketball program that they offer. So I won't read all of this to you. I'll just have you look at this and get an idea. So as you can see under basketball, they have both a competitive boys and girls team. The IAAM conference is the girls conference, Interscholastic Athletic Association of Maryland, and the MIAA conference is the boys conference, the Maryland Interscholastic Athletic Association. Same words, just different, they've moved them around a little bit for the girls and boys. So this is John Carroll. St. Paul's School is also co-ed. There's a St. Paul's School for girls, St. Paul's Boys School. As you can see, the tuition's a bit higher for this one. They have a bit more to offer. There is, though, need-based financial aid, so that's good. And then they are also in the MIAA and IAAM, both very competitive basketball programs. McDonough, also a competitive co-ed school. Again, the tuition's a bit higher than John Carroll. Strong sports, a beautiful campus. It's rather far away from here, though. It's on the other side of Baltimore. That's something to take into consideration, how far away it is from where you live. And then when we move into the all-girls schools, we have Bryn Mawr School. I like some of their benefits. They empower female leaders and rigorous academics. Again, a higher tuition in the 30s. They're in the IAAMA conference, which is a very competitive conference for the girls. We have Mercy High School, all girls, tuition a bit lower than John Carroll's, which is nice. This is a Catholic school. Another point to make is that if the school is a Catholic school or religious school of any kind, the students will have religious classes probably every year of high school. So that's just a component of a private school that a public school obviously doesn't have, the religious classes. And they'll probably have some sort of mass, like a Catholic mass of some kind, maybe every quarter of the school. So just something to be aware of. Roland Park Country School, another all-girls school. Again, I like how they focus on the leadership for women. Pricey, again, in the IAAM conference. And their rivals with Bryn Mawr. Notre Dame Prep, otherwise known as NDP, all-girls school. Tuition is pretty comparable to John Carroll, very similar to John Carroll, just a all-girls school. And then when we look at the all-boys schools, here are some of the options. Boys Latin School of Maryland, strong brotherhood, strong academics. Again, tuition in the mid-30s. They're in the MIAA-B conference, so not quite as competitive as the A conference. Gilman School, which is all boys, mid-30s again, and they are in the MIAA conference, so they're at a higher level as far as basketball. Loyola Blakefield, a Jesuit school, so faith-based education. They will have religious classes that you would take every year. In the mid-20s. There is scholarship available and a strong basketball tradition. And then Calvert Hall, all boys, very comparable to John Carroll again. They're one of John Carroll's rivals. Strong Catholic tradition, so there will be those religious classes. They're in the A conference for basketball, so a very strong program as far as basketball goes. So there's a lot of options, right? And it's hard to know what's best. Obviously, you want to think about the academics, the basketball opportunities, where they're located in reference to where you live or where you work. How hard is it going to be to get your student to that school? Do they have carpool situations? Most schools have carpools kind of all over around Maryland to help kids get to school every day. How much money does it cost and what kind of scholarship are you able to get there? And does your student feel comfortable there? So A way to figure all of this out, the best way to figure all of this out is by taking these next steps. You want to visit open houses that happen in the fall. This is a chance for the high schools to kind of show themselves off. Every high school has an open house right around now, or a little bit like mid to late October into November ish. There will be open houses all over that you can go to, normally on a Saturday or a Sunday, where you can just show up and they will put their best foot forward for you because they want to sell their school. So go to as many of those as you can and see what the differences are at each school. See how your student feels at each school. Talk to the coaches and the people that are there while you're at open house. If you can't make open house, or if you can and you end up really liking it, you should schedule a shadow day next. Um, the shadow days can simply be scheduled by calling the admissions offices of the school and asking to set it up. So your student will spend literally a whole day at that school and they'll follow one other student around who is probably a freshman or a sophomore. You can ask them to follow a basketball student around so they can kind of get a feel for the team and what the basketball program is like. And they sit in on that student's classes all day long with them. They'll go to lunch with them. They'll meet their friends. So they really get a feel for what the school is all about on that shadow day. That's important to do. You really get a good idea of what it's like then. So simply call admissions and ask to set that up. They'd be happy to accommodate you. And then you want to obviously prepare for those entrance exams because those will determine the placement that the class placement you are in your freshman year. And then most of these high schools, again, have a deadline of December or January to get all of your application in by. So that includes any letters of recommendation or your middle school transcript. So all of those pieces need to be in by the deadline if you are interested in doing this. And then, I'm not sure, Ms. Venters, if you wanted to speak about the magnet open house schedule, if you want me to go ahead and take that.
I can say a few words about this. So, say you have a student who definitely wants to apply to the independent schools, but maybe they have interests in certain programs within the county. They may be interested in doing a magnet program here in Harford County Public Schools. We know that all of our high schools have basketball teams and they'll have the opportunity and still be able to play competitively in a high school team, probably with friends that they currently know. We had our son who goes to Loyola. He did see some of these magnet programs and he also applied to private too. So it might be a good option to try your hand at both and see what opens up, what the possibilities are, and where you get accepted to so you can weigh your options. So right now, HCPS has their fall magnet program open house schedule. It does start next week. It runs through to November, and it gives your student an opportunity to go and take a look at these high schools, see what programs they have to offer. There may be some things there that your kid is interested in. Maybe they want to specialize in certain things. Maybe they want to get a certain credential. Maybe they want to do dual enrollment and eventually end up with college credit by participating in some of these programs, which can lead to other opportunities. So we wanted to make sure that we provided this information as well, where kids might want to explore both options and then see what ends up panning out for them so they can have more things to choose from when it comes to the end of the admissions process. So just wanted to share that information. And you
Exactly.
can apply to any of these programs here by going to hcps.org, and there's a magnet program application that you want to make sure you get that in probably as soon as possible. Go ahead and look at these programs. The application does close within, I believe, mid-November for the latest. So you might want to make sure you at least attend some of the open houses, get experience of what the school looks like, what the kid is interested in. And I believe you can apply to up to 3 of these programs in one application.
Great. Okay, so there's some options for anyone living in Harford County. There's several private school options. Most of them are just a bit far away, and then there's lots of public school options as well. So this is the end of my presentation. The right high school can help you grow on and off the court. I hope I was helpful. I hope you got some information from this, and it leads you to whatever your next step might be.
Oh, perfect, perfect. This is great. So thanks so much for sharing this information. And as a couple of questions that have, come to mind, and I know that people would ask is, you know, there's a lot going on here, right? There's even what you shared, there's a lot of different programs, a lot of different options. And you're talking about a middle schooler, right? Eighth grader
Right.
trying to choose,
13,
right?
13 or 14 years old.
Yeah,
Right.
13, 14 years old, trying to choose where in the world they're going to go for high school, right? And for all the parents out there, it is very much like a college process, okay? So like I said earlier, this is something that was very new to us coming to Maryland. And but the biggest thing, one of the big things, I'll get to my question, is the fill, right? There's so many options. There's so many classrooms. I mean, one thing someone kept saying to me, regardless of where you end up, you're going to be okay. Because there's that big pressure of selecting the right school, right? Am I going to select the right one? Yeah, for 4 years. And I kept hearing the resounding, hey, wherever you go, you're going to be okay. Talk
Mhm.
about just the students just really being true to how they feel about the environments they walk into as they're doing the shadow days, as they're doing the open houses, as they're looking at what the school can offer. And it's really listening to, hey, where do I feel the most comfortable?
Right. Right. That's such an important thing. The way you feel when you're there. And you go with your gut, usually your gut is correct. So if you walk into a shadow day and it's intimidating and the kids don't seem very friendly and the classes seem maybe overwhelming and you don't get, that warm and fuzzy feeling from anybody necessarily, your gut probably tells you this doesn't feel right, and that's probably accurate. You know, um, it's just like, as a college counselor, it's the same way when you go visit colleges. You kind of just know. You should be able to feel it in your gut. Like, am I comfortable here? Do I like these kids? Do these kids seem like friends that I would like to have? Do they seem like people I'd want to see again and hang out with? Do do the classes seem appropriate for me? Do I understand these teachers? Do these teachers seem like they care about their students? When I talk to the coach, is he welcoming? He friendly? All of those things matter. So you want to, even if you have to write down a list of things to kind of, let your senses feel while you're there.
Yeah,
I think that will help. And really, your gut tells you a lot about a
yeah,
place, you know?
yeah,
That's a really good point because I know just going through the process with our son, I think
Mhm.
that's the crucial part that cannot be overlooked is going there and experiencing the feel of whatever campus that it is. And,
Yes,
seeing how students interact and seeing how
right.
teachers teach and if they take time to explain, and because that's the pulse of the whole community, is like it's all about academics, it's all about the learning experience, and what does that feel like in the classroom. And I think
Right.
that that's one part of the process that I love about when it comes to private schools. It's in it's ingrained in the process. You've got to shadow. You've
Yes.
got to experience. It's impossible to make a good decision without getting that feel. So, especially because it's a big investment financially.
Hmm.
You've got to know
Yes.
that that is the right fit for your kid. So, any parent that is going through the process, I would advise them to not overlook that part. That's crucial, to get your kid
Hmm.
on that campus, to get them in that classroom and get that real life experience.
Yeah. You said
Absolutely.
you guys both said something key, and one thing I want to follow up with is, you know, there could be a lot of variables that impact where you go, right? And you want to make sure you feel comfortable wherever you go. Um, but then there's also one other aspect I want to bring out is the sense of urgency that there is, right? A lot of people saw these dates and they're like, oh, well, we have some time, right? Talk about how fast this stuff comes up, especially when you got to follow up with the teachers and make sure the letters of recommendations are sent and all that kind of stuff, records and stuff. Yeah, talk through that part a little bit. Just kind of emphasizing a little.
Sure. You cannot procrastinate. This is not something that you can procrastinate with. And you might think, oh, um, you know, I don't have to have things aren't due until December. That's 2 months from now. That happens so fast because there's a list of things that you have to get together and you have to do and you're responsible for. And that takes a couple months. It doesn't just happen overnight. So you do have to be organized and you do have to be on top of things. That's so important because it catches up to you very fast.
And I think
And you
Wanted
might
another,
to
not
oh,
get,
go ahead.
go ahead.
sorry, you might not get a shadow day that is, next week. You might have to wait for a
Oh
shadow
yeah,
day for like a month
for
from
a
now.
month. Yeah.
So, right. So you need to be ahead of the game for sure.
And with the process, like Carrie said, you have to be on it. But another thing you got to keep in mind is that there's other people involved in the process. So notifying those
Right.
teachers ahead of time for those recommendations is really important. I think sometimes we think, oh, we're going to fill out the application and you're focused on your part of everything, but there are other hands that are involved. So you want to give people
Hmm.
adequate time to get those documents sent. And so we advise that you do it ahead of time. Give that teacher time to write that great recommendation. Don't wait till the last minute because you might not get the best recommendation. You might not get things sent in a timely manner because you're dealing with other people and other people's time constraints. So I guess the earlier the better to notify
Correct.
teachers and schools.
And one thing
Correct.
too, that I noticed a difference where, so we had one kid going from private school, middle school to private school, high school, and then we had another son going from public school and applying for private school. And one thing I noticed a difference when we went to request the teacher recommendation in the private school, it was a direct contact with the teacher, and the teacher wrote the recommendation and sent it in. With the public school, it was staff that wrote the recommendation letter together. So as I'm reaching out to one teacher that I thought that would give the amazing recommendation for my son, it went through a whole staff of counselors and assistant principal, and it was like, yeah, we'll write one collectively together. I'm like, oh man, but I mean, it still worked out okay. But it's just know that there's the different nuances that your whatever school you're coming from that they have, so that nothing gets held up in the process. I would say the last thing is the power of the follow up, and this was one thing I we kind of embedded in our son. I think his school probably did it. I don't was after you had these conversations with these schools that you're interested, just following up with an email, right? Just thanking them for their time. Have you guys seen that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've seen it and I've not seen it from
Yeah.
a lot of students. So the minority of students will follow up with an email thanking the school for coming, or, thanking the school for having them. So when you're a student who does follow up, that puts you in a whole nother category for that school, let me tell you. That school is immediately impressed and they keep that documentation. They will hold on to that and put it in the student's file.
Yes.
So when it comes time to look at applications, they know that student sent a thank you. And that goes a long way. So that's a great point, Ricky. Good point.
Well, cool.
Yep, that
Any
helps.
it, any other final thoughts? Any other final parting ways as everyone now is embarking, get ready to embark on this journey? Any final things from each of you guys that you want to share with everyone?
I think Nicole had a good point that you just look at all your options. Don't just be get your heart set on private schools necessarily. Maybe look at a little bit of both. A couple public schools, a couple private schools, or something. I think looking at all your options is important because you don't know. You don't know if there's a public school out there that might be the perfect fit for you unless you look, or vice versa. Maybe go to a few open houses if you've never really considered private school, but you're kind of curious. Go to a couple open houses and just see what you think. And if you end up saying no way, it's not for me, then at least you know. So I think keep your options open.
And I would also
Is my bottom
suggest
line.
to families is that don't limit yourself and go ahead and look into the possibilities. I think sometimes we get caught up in culture or tradition if maybe you didn't go to a private school or you're not familiar with that or you don't know anybody who has. It doesn't hurt to try, to look into it, to explore the options, to set foot on those campuses, to see what it actually feels like, because you might find that that is a better option for your student. I think sometimes we kind of shy away from things that are unfamiliar. um, that maybe you graduated from a certain school, so maybe your expectation is that your student remains in that school, but try other options, see what's out there for your student, and you may find a better fit by just venturing out.
Very true. All right. Thank you. It was